Hi. So, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we don't have yet people who are here, but you know how it goes on this channel. We like to start on time and finish on time. So, if you're joining us wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're listening to this much later, welcome to this channel. My name is Nduta Wambura, and if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do, because there's a lot of value that I tend to give nowadays about study abroad, life abroad, sometimes about nutrition, and sometimes just banter and that kind of thing. So feel free to subscribe and share this video with whoever else might be interested in this. So today's video is going to be about studying and working in Portugal. So if you would be interested in this topic, then definitely please go ahead and share this information with whoever is interested, or yourself. Please ensure that you can be able to listen in, ask the questions whenever and wherever you will be listening into this. We would definitely be happy to answer your questions much later in the future even. So you can always send us your comment and your question, however it is. We'll try our best to actually go ahead and answer it. And so without further ado, if you're listening to this, today's session, like I said, is about studying and working in Portugal. I will just begin with a short background of myself. I currently live in Portugal, and I have lived here for quite a long time now. It's about 6 years, going to the 7th. And I came to Portugal via studies. So I came via my Erasmus scholarship, and I love this country so much so that I sought to live here and live and work here. So I guess this is something that you can definitely do. And if you're listening to us, please let us know where you're listening in from. If you have any comments, any type of questions, please send them in. And the reason as to why I love to do this is because I would love to help someone else to come and study and work in Portugal. And in other words, anyways, I've had quite a number of people asking about studying and working in Portugal, how to go about it. And so today's session is going to be an overview of what you can expect. And I would like to also put a disclaimer out there that the information being shared on this session is quite general. We are in no capacity, we do not actually, give visas, or we do not work in any capacity with the immigration department. This is something that you can do for your own. And just to let you know that this is general information. So it's not like this is the blueprint as to what you really have to go by. It really varies from one person to the other, depending on what you're trying to do, depending on what you're trying to achieve, and even the field that you're in. So thank you so much for joining us. And I see Maria here saying that you cannot hear me. I don't know whether you can adjust maybe your volume on your phone, because I guess that is it, or join using the app. So if you can hear me, let me know on the comment section. I see good vibes, Anthony. Okay, yes, all right, Maria, you say that now you can hear me. Thank you so much for joining and for staying on. So guys, today's session is fantastic because I got to meet one fantastic person actually on Twitter. You never know how these social media streets will treat you, but you know what? I met a fantastic person who was talking about Portugal and studying and working in Portugal. And you know what? I was like, I need to hear more from this person, and we need an evergreen space for this person to tell us more about Portugal. And now we have today with us, his name is Sadiq Akintola. I hope I said that correctly, and if I did not, he's going to correct me, because this is an easy session. So please interact with us, listen to us, share this with somebody who could benefit from it as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my guest today, Sadiq Akintola. Sadiq, if you can hear me, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us, who are you?
Thanks for having me, Ndita. I think before I introduce myself, I'll probably need to get your house address and know where I could send Nigerian food, Nigerian delicacies to your house, so that when you start eating them, you know how to pronounce Nigerian names correctly, right? But yeah, that was great. That was great. You actually very precise. My name is Sadiq Akintola, and I have been living in Portugal for about 4.5 years now, right? I came in 2017, in October of 2017. So, and I mean, Portugal is a very nice place. I came through my study as well, but not like Undita. I came here as a self-sponsored student, and I mean, it's been very great. One thing I see about people, I mean, a number of people that I see that want to come to Portugal have this idea of comparing with other European countries and the US, the UK, but hopefully we'll get into that. More about me, I have a computer science background, so I did computer science in my bachelor's degree. And so I've been like in the IT world for about a decade now, right? 10 years up to 11. And at some point in 2017, I was ready to transition from core software development into data analytics and data science, machine learning. And one of my thoughts regarding that is to actually have a master's degree. And of course, the destination being Europe, I tried to look for scholarships around, but I couldn't get. But I decided to kind of do a self-sponsored course by myself, and Portugal being one of those very, very great countries that have very good educational system, and relatively low cost compared to other European countries. It was an obvious choice for me, and also the school that I chose, which is Nova University of Lisbon, has this very excellent course in data science and advanced analytics. So it was natural for me to pick that. So I got my admission and started. So that was like the beginning of the transitioning for me. Now I I work because of that transition. I'm able to work in the data space. I work as a data engineer in Google right now. Previously, I was working at Microsoft. Yeah, that has been some journey for me, and that's for me. That's me in a nutshell.
Fantastic to hear. Fantastic to hear. So, everything to do with data, everything to do with tech, these are the questions that we need to bombard you with, and I'm sure you can answer them very well.
Yeah.
And and you know what? I will take that offer for the food, for the Nigerian food. I hope I would not be crying as I eat the food. So I'll wait for it. Yeah, with the not so much pepper, hopefully. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. So, guys, if you're listening to this, so thank you so much for staying on and for joining us. So, if you have any questions to do even with tech, then this is a platform that you can definitely ask them. And so, I want us to get started with the discussion because I personally came to Portugal via Erasmus, and that is one of the ways that I've found several people coming in. And let me tell you for a fact that it's much easier to come abroad via studies. So it's always good to go to any country. It's not good, but it's much easier. The process is much easier if you're going to maybe study, whether it's Australia, Canada, anywhere in Europe, pretty much everywhere. But it doesn't mean that you cannot come via work, because there are several people who also come in either via secondments. So they have been seconded by their companies back in maybe an African country, or maybe like we have the tech visa now in Portugal, where you can come and do a tech job here. If you have maybe a family member who is already here and maybe is studying or is already working, then you can apply to join them and maybe come via that way and maybe find work over time and these kind of things. So there are several possibilities. And like I said here, we're just giving you general information according to our own experiences. So if you, of course, want to apply, then you have to shoot your shot to a company. Or if you want to apply, then you have to shoot your shot to the immigration and let them know that, hey, I want to come to Portugal and maybe study or work or whatever it is. So the first section of this conversation is definitely about studying. So
Yeah.
you said that you came via a self-sponsored program. So can you tell us, so how did you apply and how did you get to know about this university? I'm sure you are maybe somewhere in Nigeria trying to think, oh, I want to go abroad. I want to, like you guys say, Japa, is it? So, so tell us, how did you get to know about this?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned the other time, I mean, I have been, I mean, since for about 5 years, right? I I always wanted to kind of expand my horizon. I wasn't tech, but I knew that the transitioning will happen for me anytime soon. So I was doing my software development, but then I was already interacting with data because I was working for a securities exchange back then in Nigeria, and I was dealing with a lot of data, right? And at some point, I felt, okay, I think I need to do more, right? And at that point, I felt that probably doing this short courses, maybe on Coursera. I did a number of that, but I still don't find that conviction that yeah, this is where I need to be. So definitely, it was a master's degree for me, and I felt that okay, I would have to take it to a higher degree, right? And at that point, I started looking for scholarships, like I mentioned, and it didn't come. So obviously, I don't want to waste more time. So I decided to search for scholarships. The place where I started was masterseu.com. I think that was the website. And I was able to kind of see a number of universities because I knew I'll be responsible for paying my tuition and all that. I was looking for some criteria. I set some criteria for myself. So one is the quality of the education must be there. The university must be a well-known university, but I mean the quality of their education should be there. Then also, obviously, the tuition should be relatively affordable, right? Because I knew that I was going to be paying by myself, so I kind of chose that kind of criteria that is important. Then also, I wanted a city where I could live in that will still give me the vibe of like, of course, being in Europe, being in a cosmopolitan environment, and also, with a very good standard of living, but something that you wouldn't need to break a bank to live in. So all those criteria kind of shaped my decision to go to Lisbon because I saw Lisbon as a destination where a lot of people kind of go. Although there were some disadvantages, really, because while Lisbon kind of checked all those criteria that I've set for myself, there was a point that I was kind of discouraged because of the new language that I would have to kind of learn to be able to communicate, to live in the society, to basically live and enjoy myself. So that was like a discouraging factor for me, which is the language barrier. But overall, I decided to choose studying in Lisbon, and I mean that was it's a decision that I never regretted since then. So yeah, definitely being a self-sponsored, you have to bring everything out of your pocket. So you have to be aware. But there's one thing I would want to say: if you're in that category of people that you probably don't want to waste more time waiting for scholarships. Scholarships are great. They are very, very, I mean, if you have a scholarship, it's very, very great, right? But not everybody would have them. Scholarships have a cap, right? And it's obvious not everybody would have them, or even when you have them, it probably doesn't solve the 100% of your problem, right? So sometimes you need to kind of do some extra to be able to achieve what you want to achieve at the time you want to achieve them. So I set some goals for myself that during my transition, I want to happen as soon as possible. I want to start working in the data space, and I want this master's degree to be my stepping stone. So that was it for me. I decided to go for the master's and decided to find not so expensive course, which obviously Portugal affords me. So yeah, and then you have to deal with living while studying, obviously. So the house rent, feeding, all those things. You have to kind of put them in your budget to make sure that life is easy for you. I will tell you, sometimes it kind of get difficult, especially when you're self-funded. Everything has to come from your pocket, so you have to do some management and some timetabling and all that. But I mean, in the end, you get that opportunity to do what you want to do exactly at the time you want to do them, not waiting for a scholarship to happen. And it's a good way to progress in your career.
Wow, wow. And I love the way you mentioned that you actually began doing some courses on your own, some tech courses already on your own, and now you built that into a master's. And, as much as you applied for different scholarships, then, that you are able to come here and support yourself and do your master's degree. And actually, for the next section, I want us to talk about the costs of studying, because I get this question a lot, and I'll give you a minute to maybe take a breather, and we'll come back and talk about that. But I also want to mention something here that the thing about scholarships is that you can never quite just say that for sure, if I apply for this scholarship, I have to get it. So you cannot emotionally invest in a scholarship process just because you think that, I have all the good grades, I got first class honors, I have been doing all these kind of things. The scholarship consortiums and committees do not owe you a thing. So you are in a competition per se with everybody else. And like I said, like for me, it was the same, because I applied for Erasmus, and the first time I did not quite get it. I've said this before on this channel, I did not get it the first time, and so I had to apply for the second time, and it's when I got it. And there were several things that obviously caused me not to get it. One of them might have been even my statement of purpose, which I talk about a lot in terms of what do you write on that statement, and at some point, of course, even for Erasmus, several people usually do not get it, maybe because of the amount of money that any of the consortiums may have allocated at any one given point. And this would be one of the ways for you to come to Portugal. So for instance, if you're also doing like a course, say for example you're applying for a master's in tourism that is Erasmus funded, and maybe it's incorporating several countries. Of course it has to incorporate several countries, so which means that maybe you would be going to Portugal, maybe Italy, France, and maybe another country, maybe Spain, because for Erasmus they have at least 3 countries for which you can go to. So which means that you would go into all these 4 countries, and in the eventual end, when you finish your master's, you can decide that, hey, you know what, I want to go and settle in country A, B, C, D, E, where you actually went to study. And one of those countries can definitely be Portugal. And why Portugal is because, for instance, if you are doing like a course in tech or anything to do with telecommunications, things to do with engineering, these are courses for which you can be able to get a job quite easily. So the transition between, you being a student through to being an employee, then that can be a little bit easy. Of course, it comes with its own challenges, because the immigration is going to definitely ask for several documents. Personally, I had to produce these documents, things to do with criminal record certificates, things to do with your tax status and whether you have a contract or not. And this is something that we are going to also tackle in the next segment. But right now, I want us to focus on coming to study in Portugal and what does the fee look like? Because this is one of the questions that I got when I posted about this session. And I want us to talk about this with Sadiq. And one thing I want to also mention is that I would not quite recommend for someone to come and do an undergraduate unless you speak the language very well.
Yeah.
Because Portuguese is quite technical, I must say. I have been here for quite a long time, and some of the things I don't quite grasp to date, which is annoying and shameful to say, but it is what it is. So I wouldn't quite recommend for someone to come and do an undergraduate. However, it is possible. It's definitely possible. If, for example, you find a school that is teaching your course in English all along. But I want us to talk about how much would it cost. So, for example, you went to the University of Lisbon, yeah, and I don't know how much was it in a nutshell. If you are comfortable sharing that, or maybe you can share a range in between of the fees. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean these are public details that you can easily find on the website of the school. So when I applied to Nova University of Lisbon, the cost amount was actually 6,000 euros. I think you would have to do the conversion in your own currency based on like some exchange rates. But I think it was 6,000 euros. No, it was 5,850 euros. And then one benefit about this thing is that if you pay all your fees at once, you will get some discounts, like about 10% discount. If you pay all your fees like in two installments, you'll be able to get about, I think, 10% installment or less. Then if you pay maybe about maybe three installments, there's also kind of a reduction in fee. That's maybe around 5%. I'm not sure exactly, but definitely if you go to the school's website and then the websites of the course that you want to study, because each course vary, the fees for each course kind of vary from one course to the other. So definitely you should look at that. They're always there on the website, so it's public information. I think it was increased a little bit from my time. um, they increased it about 150 euros. So now it was so then around 2019, 2020, it was around 6,000. And I think that is also kind of, so you probably, so, and it's a 2 year course. So you pay the entire 6,000 euros for 2 years. And then of course you can pay based on any installments that you choose. So that's maybe 3,000 in the first year, or 3,000 in the second year, or they have a schedule that they could make for you, and then you'll be able to pay your installments based on that schedule. So my university is a private university, so I think for that it was a lot. It was a little bit expensive. I'm sure if you go to universities out, especially outside of Lisbon, like University of Coimbra, University of Porto. Porto is still like a very big city, so you should expect that the cost might be a little bit more. But if you go to some universities like Minho, they have very good courses that they do at a very relatively lower rates. And yeah, so I mean, the more you are in the city, the more it tends to be expensive. Then also, I believe private institutions kind of have higher fees because the same cost in my university, if you go to the University of Lisbon, so not Nova University of Lisbon, if you go to the University of Lisbon, which is essentially like a state-owned university, you will have those courses a lot more lesser, I believe, and several other government-owned universities. So definitely, if you're looking for like a reduced fee in terms of your budget, you should definitely look at government universities. And I mean, they have, like you said, um, definitely, if you want to do an undergraduate degree, it is most likely to be taught in Portuguese, right? Because Portuguese is the national language here. So you're expected to have at least a level B level in your understanding of the language. So you're expected to have that at the very minimum. You will have some very, very good conversational Portuguese standard before being able to do that. But I mean, from masters, integrated masters, and PhD, they have a lot of courses that they do that they have in English. And even when they don't, there are some universities that give you the time, about 1 year, to learn the Portuguese language up to the point where you are able to, get yourself to a shape where you can actually start doing your course with the level of Portuguese that you have. So it will be, I mean, if it's okay by you, it's worth really exploring.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. And one thing that you know, mentioned obviously is that it's quite diverse in terms of the courses that you can actually take. So most of the universities in Portugal always have these international offices or international corporations. They want international students to come in, and at least they can, move into the number of students they should have within an year and that kind of thing. So it is very much possible to get admitted as a self-sponsored student. And one thing that I also get a lot of questions about is, hey, so you're saying about Portugal. Where is Portugal exactly? First of all, because I think we never even tackled that. Because most people are always like, Portugal, is that in Spain? Is that in Africa somewhere? I mean, am I coming to use my own currency? What currency do you guys use? Come on, it's a Eurozone. So, I mean, we are in the south of Europe, so we are definitely in Europe. So for sure, the amount we are talking about here is 6,000 euros. So if you're thinking about coming to study, then this is something that you can do your conversion and be able to come in and begin your studies. But one thing I want to talk about is, fine. So you have applied and you're coming to pay 6,000 euros for the 2 years. So do they ask for a certain amount of money, for you to show a certain amount of money in your own account, or how you can be able to take care of yourself in this country within that period of time? And I know that we are going to transition this to also talking about working as a student. So can you tell us, did you have to show a certain amount of money that you have in your own account, or how you can take care of yourself, or how did that go?
So at the point of that's a great question. At the point of application, right? There was really nothing like that, because when I submitted my application, there was like an interview to kind of gauge how your readiness to come for this course, especially when it is self-sponsored. Obviously, the school needs to know that you have your costs kind of settled, and you'll be able to kind of afford every other thing that comes with studying. So it's not just the school fees; it's about house rents, all those things. So they kind of ask you in your interview if you have this covered, and if they're satisfied with your answers, it's nothing that you kind of have to bring some proof like a bank statement. So that's that way during the application. However, at the time of application for your visa, so for your student visa, obviously you need to be able to show how you will be able to sustain yourself while studying, because nobody wants to have a student that would, I mean, come and then stop halfway because they're not able to sponsor themselves or continue the studies. So what happens at the point of application for your visa is, I'm not sure if I know if there is a fixed figure that they expect, but I would say that you should be able to have like an estimate of what your school fees will be, and then, I mean, calculate how much you would be spending on your feeding, accommodation for about a period of 1 year. I mean, put that into good consideration, make the calculation in your own currency. And especially for people in Nigeria, and sorry for saying this, our currency is not very, very balanced, right? So the exchange rate kind of goes up and down. Kind of make sure you pick the upper bound of the exchange rate, so that when these conversions are being made, you don't kind of lose that opportunity just because the yes to this price was not to this price, right? So make sure you have the upper bound of the exchange rates, and make sure you kind of cater for yourself for about 1 year, right? You have the funds to cater for yourself for about 1 year. I mean, this is my own estimate, and I think it should be able to, I mean, it should be good to go. What they need to ensure, and I never had any figure stated explicitly, is the fact that when you get to Portugal, with the amounts that you show in your account, you will be able to sponsor yourself. One thing, I mean, during my time when I was applying for my visa, unlike several other countries in Europe, like the UK and all that, you can have a sponsor, like someone who is like a relative or someone who is like a sponsor. And if the person can present their bank accounts and their a statement confirming that they will be responsible for your sponsorship throughout that period, and they can present that they have the funds. It doesn't necessarily, at my time, have to be in your own personal account. So that way, you will be able to, get through that process. Because obviously, if you're not working prior to your studies, and if you don't have some savings, you will definitely need someone to kind of take that responsibility of you. So yeah, people should kind of have that in mind. Take care of yourself. Having the funds to take care of yourself for about 1 year should probably do, including your school fees and every other thing.
Right. And guys, actually, the cost of living here in Portugal is quite affordable, I must say, depending on the type of life you want to lead, obviously. But as a student, I can tell you for a fact, like some of the cities, for example, in the north, I studied in the University of Porto myself, and the cost of living would definitely range anything from 800 euros to maybe 1,000 euros, depending on where you want to live, whether you're comfortable sharing houses. I know when people and Africans hear about this, Kenyans included, sharing houses is a foreign term. So, like, when you come to Europe, that's the way of life, like you get a house and you're sharing with maybe 2, 3, 4. Some people go as many as 10 people in a house. And, the more you share, the lesser the cost of that room that you're sharing. So when we say about sharing, is that you're sharing the common amenities. So for example, you're in a house, you're sharing the sitting area and the kitchen and the bathroom and all these kind of things, and you have your own room that is actually just for you. That's your space. So that is very much possible, and such kind of shared accommodation can range anything from 200 euros all the way to 300 or 350 or 400, depending on the type of house, depending on your landlord, and depending on several things where you're looking for this house. If it's in Lisbon, the cost is definitely going to be off the roof. If it's in places like Ivora or the University of Minho, University of Coimbra, in University of Porto as well, is going to be much, much lesser. If you go down south to the University of the Algarve, which is very, very good for things to do with hospitality and tourism, such courses, then of course the cost of living goes a little bit more higher because again, the south of Portugal really has quite a lot of immigrants and international people, so which makes it more touristic, which makes things much, much more expensive. But it's nice to live there. The weather is much nicer even than Lisbon or even Porto, so you will love it there for sure. And one other thing that also that would be good to mention is that, when you're coming to study abroad, whichever the country that you're going to, such things like the weather, such things like the cost of living, such things like the language will definitely affect you directly. So, I talk about the weather and people are like, why are you talking about the weather? And we are talking about study abroad, because it's going to affect you. Because if it's too dark, your mental capacities are lower. You don't want to go to that classroom. You're not going to work well, and this kind of thing. So, like, Portugal is one of the good destinations because, one, good weather. Why? Because we are close to Africa, so we get to have the good weather and the good vibes. We have sunshine even during winter, and the cold is not as much because, well, it gets chilly, especially during winter, during the evening, maybe as low as 4 degrees and maybe 1 degree, depending on the day. But these are things that will definitely affect you. So we've talked about the language. If, for instance, you want to study, you want to shoot your shot into an undergraduate, then maybe, study the Portuguese language, start early, maybe like a year before. If, for instance, maybe you're coming from Kenya or even Nigeria, I would assume that you guys have a Portuguese embassy in Nigeria. Usually these embassies have language courses that are being taught within the country already. I know for a fact that Kenya, the Portuguese embassy in Kenya is currently doing this, and they are trying to get more people to learn the language. And if you learn the language and you're good to go, then you can definitely even apply for that undergraduate course, or comfortably apply for any master's course that is being taught in Portuguese. So it will be easier for you even to come and integrate and to be able to interact with the culture of the country. So that is one other thing that you can also look into. So one thing that I also want to talk about is about the ranking of the universities, as well as the courses that you can study in these different universities, because each of the countries within the European Union are differently ranked in terms of, for example, if you want to study things to do with engineering, robotics, all these kind of things, maybe Germany would be a good fit for you. If you want to study things to do with tourism and maybe wineries and all these kind of things to do with culture and all these kind of things, maybe Italy or even south of Portugal or Spain sometimes would be good fits for you to look into. So we want to also talk about Portugal and some of the courses that you would definitely be at a better stake studying here than any other country. So we've already talked about a little bit about data and about IT. So it's obvious that Portugal, if you want anything to do with data, IT, telecom, this is the place. And I also want to throw in their engineering, because I have had quite a number of colleagues as well who came to study engineering here. But I also want you to chip in and tell us more. So if somebody is looking to study in Portugal, so other than IT and engineering, what other courses would you recommend, for someone who's looking to come and study here?
Well, like I say, I mean, I'm in the IT field, and I know about. I have a couple of friends that are also in the actuary space. They actually have a very sound university, which is University of Lisbon, but they have a different. They have actually a different campus for that. So they have this actuary school that it's really renowned, and I have friends that have graduated from there, and they are working with some of the top actuarial companies here in Lisbon. So I mean, definitely, I would say that they also have. I mean, in that same school, they have a finance school. I have some friends that are working with the top, graduated from that school, the finance school, School of Finance, University of Lisbon, and they're working with top banks, BNP, Santander. They're working with those top banks here in Portugal. The other thing I know about my school, especially, is the risk. So there's this risk management. I know a number of colleagues. I call them colleagues because we see a lot in school. They are working with very good top companies here in Portugal because once they finish, there is one thing about studying in Portugal again. During your course, most of these universities have this collaboration with companies all over Portugal. So what happens is, because most of the courses are like 2 years, right? You either have about 3 semesters or 2 semesters of coursework. So after your coursework, and this happened to me because I mean obviously it happens to everybody in my course. What happens is that with the collaboration that the school has with this industry, it's very easy for students to migrate directly from the classroom into the industry and start getting industry experience. So your first year of course, and this is not just like applying to those companies. These are direct integration between the school and the industry, because and that makes you see that quality with students that come to Portugal to study. You will see them moving from the classrooms directly and then going into the industry to do their internship, to do their work placements, to do their the thesis, and then build. A lot of my mates build models for banks, for sell for companies that they work with, and then came back to defend their thesis in this area, publish papers and all that. So there is always this synergy between companies and the universities. And I was saying that because I know about some people that work in banks like BNP. They actually work in the risk department, risk management department. So it's very important that these synergies are there, and it's really an advantage for people that come into study. So I mean, those are the courses that I know. I mean, that people I've been in contact with. having very great jobs immediately, even prior to, graduating from their course, and then immediately having very good opportunities to move to other companies, or even outside of Lisbon or outside of Portugal. So yeah, I would definitely recommend their business. And then we have a business school in Portugal, which is Nova Business School. So it's Nova SBE. It's actually one of the top ranked business schools in the world. So you should check that out. If you want to do an MBA, Nova SBE is now they have a dedicated campus, a multi-million euro campus that is outside of Lisbon. It's now in Cacavelos, very near to the beach, so you can easily have good time there while studying. So they have very very nice campus that people can study now. Very dedicated syllabus. So the SBE is very very much ranked. There's also this joint MBA, the Lisbon MBA or something. So that course is, you'll see a lot of people. It's a combination of different universities in Portugal, the Católica University, Nova University, then I think University of Porto, then University of Coimbra. They have this combination that you do this courses in several of the campuses. So I would definitely recommend the MBA because it seemed like a very, very good one. I've seen some graduates there too, but usually they probably don't usually stay in Portugal because these are very, very how do I call it, hotcakes. Like once they graduate from those universities, they just snatch them from all over the world. So yeah, those are I know of someone actually that did the course. The guy finished from the course and then moved to Hamburg. I think now he's in Berlin. And he left immediately. He finished that course. He started working with EDP. EDP is like the biggest energy company here in Portugal, and they are everywhere in the world. They're almost everywhere in the world. So they are a very big energy company. EDP is a very very top notch company here in Portugal. So after his MBA, he was drafted to EDP, and then about 1 year or thereabouts, he moved to Hamburg in Germany, and now I think he's in Berlin, and he's making is doing very very well. So graduates from these courses, risk management, the MBAs, definitely tech, then finance, actuary. These are very 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 great courses that once you do them, the sky is the limit. There is definitely market for that.
Wow, yes, I agree with you. And I'll give you a minute to take a breather, and we will talk about the visas and whether you can work when you're studying, and then we'll move on to the work, working in Portugal. So, guys, if you're listening to this, please let us know if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any suggestions of what you would like to hear as well. Please leave them down on the comment section, and you can also follow any one of us on Twitter or Facebook or pretty much anywhere, Instagram. Twitter is better, anyways. I am Rita Wabura and Sadiq is Sadiq Akintola. I hope I say that correctly now, on Twitter, and he's more active there on Twitter, so you can definitely interact with him even after this. So one thing I also wanted to throw in there is Sadiq mentioned here about the Nova SBE. We also have Porto Business School. I think in Porto, which is also a very good fit, has been ranked very well on the QS rankings. So the thing is, you can do your own due diligence and check what we call QS rankings. These are just pretty much university rankings that are published, for universities across the globe. And you can check the universities in Portugal and how they have been ranked and what exactly you want to study and be able to get the university of your own choice. And one thing I also want to mention here is that if you're an international student, whether you're from Kenya, Nigeria, Mozambique, wherever, anywhere in the world, from the Asian continent, or even US or Australia, wherever you are, if you're coming to study in Portugal, the one thing that you will notice is some of the Portuguese websites for the universities might not be very, very welcoming. Maybe something is in Portuguese and you'll be like, oh my God, I don't understand anything here. You need a little bit of patience to just go through the website. You can use Google Translate and maybe get it in English. But the thing that I will tell you for sure is that they have a very good way of communicating. So which means that if you can send them an email, if something is unclear and you want to know, you want to get some clarification on maybe the fees or maybe, how to integrate into the university and these kind of things, you can shoot your shot on an email and they can definitely answer you. So that is one thing that, as much as some of the websites might not be very welcoming, the people behind those websites are actually welcoming and they will definitely help you, go into your course. And the thing is also, we also have some courses like in medicine. I personally studied nutrition in the University of Porto, and I know that the University of Porto is highly ranked in the Masters in Clinical Nutrition because there's a huge hospital in the University of Porto. Pretty much, I think it's called the Hospital something to do with Hospital Universidad de Porto. I am so wrong. I might be very, very wrong. But the thing is, some people asked a question before this live session about, which are the best universities to study medicine. So I would recommend the University of Porto to study medicine. And I know also the university here in Lisbon also has a bit of medicine, but the department in the University of Porto is definitely way much better when it comes to do with things to do with life sciences, things to do with medicine, and pharmaceuticals and all these kind of things. But a disclaimer here is that if, for example, you want to practice medicine here or you want to practice anything to do with healthcare, then you would need a very good grasp of the language, because anything to do with medicine and pharmacy and pharmaceuticals, nutrition, all these kind of things comes with a lot of oral interaction. So which means that you need to speak to people a lot, and you would need at least a very good grasp of the language for you to use it as a work language. So in that case, then if you're coming to study here, so the course might be in English. So what I would encourage you to do is to definitely start learning the language as soon as possible and get to have the roots and the ropes of it as soon as possible, so that by the time you're graduating, then you are fully baked in terms of the language, in terms of the course, in terms of the skills, the knowledge, everything, such that when you throw yourself out there, maybe into a hospital, because I'll tell you for a fact that, the healthcare system here is always looking for doctors, is always looking for nurses, is always looking for caregivers even, and these are the kind of jobs that you definitely get into. And the thing is, of course, do your own due diligence. If you want to do a master's or a short course, there's things that they call here formação, which means that it's like a short course. You go for a short course, whether you have done a diploma before or a certificate or whatever it is. So you go for a short course that is specific for that particular job that you might be getting later. And the drill is maybe for a 6 months course or maybe 1 year course, after which you potentially would get a job in a company here in Portugal. So you can look into that as well. And I know also there are quite a number of incubator projects whereby you can do some short courses, like even for IT, like they teach you how to code, and after they teach you how to code, then you can stand at a chance of getting a job in the data field or in IT field, depending on what you want to get from it. So these are some of the things that I can tell you. And the thing is, of course, we said here, if you're coming for a bachelor's course, then please make sure that you have a good grasp of the language. Or if you're lucky enough, you find a university that is actually teaching the bachelor's course in English 100%, then good, go for it. But most of them are not quite forthcoming with the bachelor's courses being taught in English. And also one other thing that I want to mention here before we talk about the visas is that in some universities, they will need you to verify your documents or authenticate your documents rather in your own country. So whether that's Nigeria, Kenya, wherever it is, then they would need you to actually go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the Ministry of Education in your own country first to authenticate your, bachelor's certificates or your transcripts as well. And once you authenticate them, then you would need to take them to the embassy of the Portuguese embassy in your own country for them to also re-verify them before you can apply. Some of the universities, like I know the University of Ivora, I also know the University of Porto has been asking for this. So please make sure that you can do this ahead of time, so that usually they have a certain period of time where you need to apply for the course that you're hoping to begin. Usually most semesters would begin in September, which means that you have a window of applying, depending on the university, they will tell you. So the semesters will begin in September, so which means that you have, it can be even from December all the way maybe to February or March or thereabout, whereby you can apply for a certain course, and then you would maybe get a yes or a no for admission, after which you need to process a few things, or prior to applying, you would need to do the authentication of the documents. Some of the universities may even ask for equivalence test for your transcripts, which means that you would need to show how was your undergraduate graded, because the Portuguese grading system is between 0 and 20. So which means that they would need to know if, for example, your transcript says that you got an A, B, C, D, E, then they would need to know how does that equate into their own system. So there's what we call ECT system, and some of the universities might ask. I'm saying some because for sure it depends from one department to the other and what they're trying to get and gauge and see, the type of international students that they are admitting and that kind of thing. So do your own due diligence as well. Do your own studies. Ask us any questions anyways, and we'll be happy to answer them. So let's talk about, can you work as a student? Can you work as a student? So maybe you come here, hey, you're a self-sponsored, or maybe you're not even self-sponsored, you're on scholarship, but you want to work. Can you work as a student? Please answer that.
Yes. So the answer is a yes. You can work as a student as long as it doesn't affect your studies. You're permitted to work. However, you have to do it by the book. So usually when you apply for a student visa, you get a 120-day Class D visa to come to study, right? The moment you get into Portugal, within that 120 days, you have to convert that visa into a residence permit. So what you have on your residence permit eventually dictates what activities you're permitted to do and you're not permitted to do. So you have to be very careful that you're able to see on your residence permit that you have the permission to work while you're studying, because your primary responsibility as a student is to study. So, like for example, I've changed my visa about 4 or 5 times, right? And I'll make myself as an example. So when I came to Portugal in October of 2017, I was given a Class D student visa, right? And when I got to Portugal in 2018, that's when I was lucky to find, the appointments to change my residence visa into a residence permit, right? These are the kind of things that you have to get used to in the process, because you have to fight for those days, right? When I got my residence permit, it was just student activities, so I was not allowed to do any other thing. However, because the way my courses are structured, we have 4 semesters. The first 2 semesters are actually for coursework, so ideally you expect it to be in the classroom. But the last 2 semesters, which is the third and the fourth, you can actually do your thesis, you can do your a job placement or a project, right? So if you already have some experiences, you can actually do you can take a full-time job and do a full-time work as you would do or as you used to do before now. So that was my case. I came to Portugal with about 7 to 8 years of experience. So it was easy for me to not just look for an internship, but also look for like a full-time job. So I got an internship, but later I got a full-time job and I decided to go for that full-time job. Prior to going for the full-time job, the first residency permit that I got was was just given to me to study, right? The article states there that I am going to study. But the second one that I got, I was given the permission to I was given a residency permit to study with the permission to carry out professional services. So that's another article on its own. I think on the law, in the law, it's on Article 89 or something. I'm not sure, but you should read the CEF. CEF is the body, is the immigration body that takes care of everything immigration in Portugal. So you should read the article and know which one applies to you. But at that time, I was given a student's residency permit with the permission to carry out professional activities. With that, I could work, right? I have the license to work. However, if in the second year or during any time during your studentship, you don't have that permission, but you were able to get a job, you will need to inform SEF that, see, I'm studying, I came with a student visa, I got a job, and I need to, I know I'll be able to balance things up and things like that. So you need to give that information to SEF. Once you have that information delivered to them, they will allow you to start working. And then maybe the next residency card that you would require or that you would request, ideally you should change your residency card at that time, right? I mean, that's the law. I mean, with the COVID and a number of things are usually being delayed towards the next time that you're going to apply or renew your residency permit. So what they do is, once it's very close to your residency permit renewal, you will make sure that you have everything that is intact, the documentation for your new status that you want to acquire, right? So if you want to, let's say, for example, you finished your work and now you just want to have a residency permit to work, not to study and work, just to work. What you will do is you will have to go with your in your appointment. During your appointment, you go with your of course, if you want to work, you probably have like a job, and you have a contract and you have things to back those things up. You have to take all those things, and then the completion certificate of your course. I mean, that really states that you're no longer a student, right? So you have to bring all those things to your next interview, for the residency appointment, to show them that you're no longer a student, you're now a full-time working professional, or you're ready to already take up a professional job, and they will make your residency title based on your new status. So it is important to know what your status is, is, and then make your decision based on that. Now, I said I've kind of moved between four residency permits, right? So the first one was the residency visa from Nigeria. When I got to Portugal, I got the student residency permit. The next year, and it lasted for about 1 year. So the next one, I was able to get a residency permit to study and work. So that was a professional one. Now, the next one that I got after that, because I was in Portugal and I really wanted to extend my tentacles to places outside Portugal if possible. I mean, based on your salary, you could actually, I mean, if you satisfy those conditions, right, you could actually apply for a permit that we call the EU Blue Card. So the EU Blue Card is a card that is a permit that is allowed in about in some countries in Europe, right, in the EU. So there is this convention that countries agreed that. So we need people from outside of our region to come in, especially very, very great talents who have the educational experience, who have the work experience, who are smart, who have the requisite knowledge to build our economy, to help with this building of our economy. And they are seeking those kind of talents outside of the eurozone, right? So that's why they came up with this special residency called the EU Blue Card. So it's like the green card of America. So if you have that card, you will be able to work in any of those countries. So at that point, after about spending 2 years in Portugal, I was ready to extend my tentacles outside of Portugal if that opportunity comes. And what that allows me is if I have an EU blue card of Portugal, when the question comes that do I have the rights to work in, for example, Germany, the answer would be yes, because I have an EU blue card and it's acceptable there. Even though once you get a job there, there are several other processes that you should go through to make sure that you acquire the EU blue card of the country that you're currently working in. So there are processes like that, and I wanted that opportunity. So I changed my residency to the EU blue card because I was eligible. And now, recently, about a few days ago, because I have a Portuguese citizen in my care, I'm able to change my residency from anything to a custodian of a European citizen. So, I mean, if you read the articles, if you see what a number of things that apply to you, you can easily take care of your residency status based on your current your situation. Obviously, all those things have conditions attached to them. So make sure that you have all those required documentation, because if any one of them is missing, it's very hard to find appointment days these days. So and it may delay your acquisition of your new status. So you should have those things in mind. Read the documentation very, very carefully. Have all the documents that they will ask for in hand. And I mean, yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, wow. You have covered that quite well. So I do believe that yes, for sure, it's very much possible to work as a student. You can take care of yourself depending on what you apply for with the self here. And I will tell you, I will not lie to you that the immigration here can be a little bit too much as well, depending on days like when we had the lockdowns and you could not do one-on-one appointments, and some of these things would get delayed and all these kind of things. So I'll tell you for a fact that Portugal is easy to get your documentation done as compared to other European countries. However, it also comes with its own fair share of a list of things that you have to do, a list of paperwork that you need to do actually. So you need to have a little bit of patience, because changing from one status to the other also takes time. And this time is something that you possibly might not have at some point. If, for example, you don't have a job or a way or a means to keep yourself going, then this can drain you. However, it is worth it. It is worth the wait for sure. And as soon as you change your status, then as soon as you're in the system, then things become much easier to renew cards or to renew your RSS cards, or eventually maybe to qualify to apply for citizenship here, depending on how long you have stayed here. Because sometimes if you have stayed here for like 5, 6 years actually now, then you're liable to applying for citizenship or even permanent residency here in Portugal. So which means that you would be able to work here and have the benefits of a citizen. Like everybody else. And of course, like you mentioned here, if you want to maybe move to maybe you get another opportunity in a different European country, then if you have the EU blue card, it would be easy. If you also have the Portuguese citizenship, then it would also be easy for you. So these are things that you can think about. And if you're coming as a self-sponsored student, or you have a scholarship, maybe Erasmus, or some people also might have a scholarship via the Portuguese government, which is known as FCT. So you can check websites like fct.pt. I will leave the link just here on the comment section, whereby you can apply for a PhD if you are looking to do a doctorate. Apply for admission, and then once you have that admission, then you can talk to your supervisor in your own university to ask them whether you can actually apply for FCT. And FCT would mean that, they cover your tuition fees, and at least they give you a monthly stipend to cater for your 4-year course or 3-year course, depending on the course that you're trying to do. But that is also very, very much possible. I've seen quite a number of students who come to do their doctorates here because, again, the fees is much, much lower if you are a self-sponsored student, or if you are able to get that FCT, the government-funded, scholarship, then that is something that you can do. One other thing that I also try to talk about here is that you can get maybe like an academic position. So you can check websites like academicpositions.eu, or you can check websites like Euraxis. I personally work very closely with the EU and also the Erasmus fundings. So like you can check a website like Euraxis, where you can find like a PhD that is advertised as a job. So, and also Portugal is liable to have these kind of jobs. In fact, just yesterday I was sending this to someone because there's quite a number of opportunities that have come up in the University of Lisbon as well as the University of Porto. And these are opportunities that you can take advantage of. Come in and integrate, and imagine coming via the education way is always much better. So if you're coming here as a PhD student or a master student, then life is a little bit more easier for you. However, I also want us to talk about work, because that is something that everyone wants to come to work in Portugal. Let me come and earn those euros that you guys are saying, and this is something that is always very interesting to talk about. And I think we will talk about tech visa. We'll also talk about, some other people talk about, I want to just come to Portugal and work anywhere. It can be a restaurant, I don't care where it is. Some people, I use this word odd jobs. I don't like saying that any job is odd, because as long as it's paying you, honestly, that it's a job for sure. Yes, the restaurant jobs are there. If you want to do a cleaning job, Portugal also has jobs in their supermarkets, chains like Pingo Doce, chains like Continent, and these kind of places where you can also even work as a student. However, such places, for sure, I would not lie to you, they would be paying you a minimum wage. And the minimum wage here, for sure, it's no lie, 650 euros. So depending on where you are, if you're a student, of course, in some cases, this might be very good for you, because, at least if you can be able to subsidize this somewhere else. But this is something that if you're in a small village where the cost of living is not as high, then this is good. But if you are in a city, a big city like Lisbon or maybe Porto, then the cost of living is way, way, way much higher. And perhaps you might need 2 of these jobs to survive, so that's the reality of things. So we also have the flip side of now, the tech visas, and we also have these incubator visas. So for example, if you want to come and start your own startup here in Portugal, you can apply for an incubator visa, whereby you come into the program and you're able to build up your startup and maybe launch it here, because Portugal is becoming, I would say Lisbon or even Porto is becoming the next tech hub, is becoming the Estonia of the south of Europe. Perhaps maybe we can use that. I don't know. I don't want to toss that around, but I mean, I guess that is where it's going. But let's talk about tech visa. And you're in tech, and you're the best person to answer this. So can you touch a little bit about the tech visa and what you know about it, and how someone who is listening to this live video from Kenya, from Nigeria, whatever, how they can take care of that? And in fact, I see Anthony here asked about tech visas. Talk more about tech visas. So let's go.
Yeah, obviously, you will notice that Portugal is taking tech very, very seriously. And if you have been in the tech industry of Portugal for the last maybe 3-5 years, you will know that there is some work that is really, really going on. For example, Web Summit, since I came in 2017, Web Summit is the largest tech event in the world. And this happens every year, close to December, November, beginning of November every year. Portugal has made it a tradition to host this event in Portugal. And I think the last Web Summit that I attended, I think I heard that they will be holding, and that's about 2 years ago, three. They will be holding the Web Summit in Portugal for the next 10 years. And I mean, if it's a melting pot every November for all tech practitioners in the world, tech companies, big companies. Actually, I got my inspiration to work with Google at the first Web Summit that I attended 2 months after landing in Portugal. Because at that Web Summit, I was able to see people from Google, like you would see from Nokia, from Microsoft, from every other big companies, having their tents and welcoming people to come and have a discussion. Like they have everybody have their booths, so you can go there, have a discussion with them, what you're doing. So Portugal is really, really interested in diversifying their tech space, in building their tech space. The other indicator that I'll tell you is that there's hardly any tech company that, and those tech companies are building seriously. There's hardly any tech company that is domiciled in Portugal today that you would not have a segment called the nearshore. So the nearshore is this aspect of the company that basically what they do is they are responsible for taking contracts from outside of Portugal. So all those, so I mean, the cost of living and hence the wages and salaries in Portugal is not so great. So it makes it easier for people outside of Portugal to actually consider bringing their workloads into Portugal and executing it from here. It's a lot cheaper for them. It's a lot beneficial for them. Of course, people want to kind of maintain a bottom line. Every company wants to do that. So if there is any destination, which is your neighbor that actually offers that service, I know a lot of companies in Germany that kind of bring work into Portugal for Portuguese company to execute and and give it back to them. So and obviously, because a lot of work these days are kind of remote and are done via the internet, a number of those things are very, very easy. I, for one, I worked at one of the consulting firms in Portugal immediately after my coursework, and I worked with a number of companies that are actually outside of Portugal. I was working with them remotely, and we were able to do their work. So basically, the nearshore has come to stay. And for that to happen, that means there's a whole lot of opportunities for people. And then that means Portugal will keep demanding people to come in and work for them. And at that juncture, I would want to let you know that, I mean, there are several ways to start working with these companies. One is the tech visa that Nduta has kind of mentioned and very well laid out. So what's the tech visa? So it's this kind of visa that so, I mean, it's not easy to move from a third world. And by third world, I don't mean like a developing country. A third world means that you're not Portugal, you're not the European Union, and you're outside of that sphere. So a third world could actually mean Mexico. It could be the US because, yeah, obviously it could be the US. It could be any other country outside the bubble of the European Union. And it's not Portugal, it's not the EU. So definitely outside. So, but obviously, a number of talents are really, really coming up in Africa these days. And they know that with this talent, we can actually increase our workforce. So they're doing everything they can. But at this time, the tech segment seems to be the one that is really, really booming. Like I've said, most of these companies have this near-shore arrangement, and that means they need people in tech to come into the country and work legally. And one of those ways that it opened up that kind of portal is the tech visa for people to actually come. And what that gives you is, so you have some startups in Portugal, and they have this very brilliant idea. They are already growing, they are already doing some things, and they need people. It's a way of telling the government that, see, we need people to come into the country. We know it might be difficult, but this is a needed requirement to fill. And obviously, we can't fill them in the immediate in Europe. So we definitely have to get some people from outside of Portugal or the EU. So they know that the number of people that are waiting to come. A lot of people want to come from Kenya, from Nigeria. Actually, today I actually met someone that came from Nigeria for the purpose of working. And I heard that the person has been working here for about 1.5 years now, right? And there's someone else that was being told today that she also joined a company that is in this startup space, and they're doing amazing. So this is not a new invention. It is something that has been kind of going on the ground, but these days those projects keep coming to Portugal, and for them to be able to execute at that rate that is coming, or even more, they definitely need people. So if you want to work, study is not the only way to japa these days. So if you want to work, if you really just so there's a list of companies that are doing this startup tech visa. There's a list of them. I think I'll share the list. If you follow me on Twitter, I can share the list so you know which companies are hiring in that space. So there are a list of companies that are actually in this space that are really the front runner in this startup tech visa opportunities. And it is better to look into those companies and apply to them directly. They have roles, they will definitely be ready to sponsor your visa. So that's an easy one, I think. The other one is, I mean, if you probably have an idea and you want to, you want to build your idea, maybe you have like a startup or like a startup idea and you want to build it up in Portugal, there is also like a visa category for that, and you'd have to kind of do your due diligence and kind of search for that and make sure that you have all the documentations, because we are living in interesting times. The same way Portugal is doing this program for, I mean, emerging talent, people that are ready to work. It's the same way we have it in the UK, in Australia, in Canada. And so everybody is trying to take their own share of the pool of talents that we have all across the world. So if you are really interested in this, study is not the only way to come in, but obviously study is very, very easy, because through your study, you're already in the system. And immediately after your studies, you have companies that are ready there waiting for you to complete. So I would say that, yeah, you should definitely explore that. Again, I'll share that details about companies that are really into the startup tech visa, because I think that's the one that is really, really great, gaining some tractions these days. And people could apply to the companies. It's about 9 pages of companies. So I'll probably share the link, and people can, look into the companies and apply. And I'm sure they are very, very interesting, because I've worked with a nearshore role before, and I know how interesting and very challenging these things can be, especially working with people outside your own geographical timing, your time zone, and things like that. People with absolutely different cultures and language and things like that. So I mean, it's really, really interesting, and I mean, it gives you the opportunity to also expand your horizon. So yeah.
Absolutely, very well said, right there. So if you guys follow me on Twitter as well, I have pinned a tweet just very recently about the same thing, about the tech visa, because I know I've met 2 people already, and in fact, I was having a discussion with one lady just last week, actually from Nigeria, and she was telling me that she got information from that tweet, and she is now doing an interview. So look at that. So just shoot your shot and get to see where it leads you. So these are not things that you're talking out of the blues, that it's happening. Tech visa is happening. It's for real. It's actually happening. And this is an invention of the Portuguese government that began back in 2019 or thereabout, and has been going on since then. And I will tell you for a fact, you know what? The work world has changed since the lockdowns, of course. More is going into tech. It's things are going more into just you ordering something online as opposed to go sitting somewhere and waiting for it to happen. Things are changing. and Portugal is no exception. So even in Portugal, you will find like even if you want to go and do work in an office nowadays, most employers are preferring people to work remotely. And what I can tell you for a fact, so if you're listening to this information right now and you perhaps think that, hey, I don't have the skills that I need to maybe do a certain tech job, how about you go and begin a course on things like Udemy, Coursera, on YouTube, self-teach yourself, and get to have that digital skill, because most employers do not even look at what is on paper. It's just what are your skills in this and this and this that qualifies you for this job. So for you to shoot your shot, then, if you want to enrich your skills, then go for it, because these things are very much available nowadays. And that is one of the ways that you can do. So digital, digital, digital. We will preach this to the end. But however, on the flip side, if you want to now come maybe do a job in tourism, because Portugal is also very, very big in things to do with tourism. And I mean, it is a touristic country. Everywhere you go, you'll find this kind of thing. So I know some people who've come and done their masters in the University of the Algarve and have gotten some great, great jobs with tourism companies that are based down south in the Algarve. And this is something that you can tap into as well. So some of the companies, again, most companies tend to set up shop here in Portugal due to easier tax regimens in terms of, lesser tax maybe, I don't know, but I guess that is the way they're going. So most of the companies come and set up shop just because it's easier to do business from here. So this is something that has been happening and will keep happening as long as Portugal is open to it. And of course it's open to it because it builds their economy, and they're encouraging it, especially with things like tech visas here. And so when we talk about a tech visa, is that when you shoot your shot and apply for that job using the list that Sadiq will share, and I've already also shared it on my Twitter page. So you apply for the job, and then the companies will definitely take care of the process of you getting here in terms of the visa process. So which means that they will send the documentation that is required to the different embassies. So you don't have to worry about that, because that can be a bit daunting. So like you would definitely have a smooth ride if you come through that direction, because the company will take care of that. Some companies will even send you a flight ticket. They will have accommodation for you here, prior for you, before you maybe decide, oh, I want another accommodation or whatever it is, but at least they will help you integrate into the system. So you shoot your shot. The ball is on your court. So if you're hearing this information right now, it's not relevant right now, or maybe you get some skills and then you say, hey, I want to apply for that tech job, go for it, and I also say, like, you can also go on LinkedIn and shoot your shot on any job you find that they are advertising, and maybe the skill set that is required, you qualify for this. And some companies, if they find that they don't have the skill set within the Eurozone or even within Portugal, they will definitely reach out to you, and you can get employed. I've seen people getting employed as product managers, even in companies such as Danone, some companies such as even Nestle, depending on the skill set that you have. So I hope the work in Portugal is quite clear. And then again, of course, if you can be able to work remotely with your current job, you can also come in here. So there's what we call the D7 visa. So and maybe that is the one other thing that we would need to speak about, because you come for the tech visa, you also come via the D7 visa, right? And right, Sadiq, if I'm not wrong, it's the D7 visa. When you come via work in tech, they will give you the D7 visa to be able to work, right?
Yeah, I know. I think I know about the D3 visa, but I'm not sure. Usually, I confuse this, but because I mean, I haven't really gone through a process of any of these processes personally. I am not sure, but I know those names. But I know them by their names, which is tech visa, startup tech visa, and there's another one. I think there's a visa that you can actually get if you want to come to set up your own business, right? I'm not sure the code name for that. I think it's either D7 or D3. I think I confused them together, but obviously I know the one for study, which is D4. But yeah, it's I mean, people that need information should actually know which application they're kind of they want to submit, and obviously they'll be expected to submit the correct documentation against that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it's usually the D7 visa, and it's the same visa. If you are capable of coming to Portugal and even retiring here, then you would apply for the D7 visa. In case also you have your own business, you can show that you can be able to take care of yourself, then that is something that you can apply for. So I want us to end this session with the questions. So we have 6 minutes, and I have my Twitter blowing up with questions. I don't know why. Somehow my Twitter has more questions than here on YouTube.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so one of the questions that I was asked is how to come and do a mechanical engineering course, whether a master's or a PhD. I do believe that, I guess we answered that. I don't know. But I think mechanical engineering would be the University of Porto, or maybe University of Lisbon as well, right?
Yeah, I know they have a very great mechanical lab in University of Lisbon, especially the campus that is in um what's this place called? Yeah, it's around Saldania. So they have the campus over there, and I have been there, and I think I've been in that mechanical lab walkthrough. They have a very good study in that area, so I can recommend what I think I know. But yeah, certainly. One thing I would actually want you to be careful about, and this is very, very important for any similar course, is especially the professional courses. I am not sure if the mechanical engineering profession is like a registration body or is like a registered body profession, like you have the doctors, the nurses, where a number of things are very, very key before you can go into them. I mean, tech, the barrier to enter tech in any country in the world these days is it's probably at zero, because most of the tools that you will use are kind of in English. So anybody, whether you speak Chinese, whether you speak English, whether you speak Portuguese, the entry barrier is zero, because you will be able to learn that. I mean, most people speak English, so you'll be able to learn that, because that is the tool, that's the language the tools are built with. However, for mechanical engineering, the same way I would say electrical engineering, because these are kind of professional, in fact, more of even civil engineering, those people that kind of do the buildings and all that, structural engineers and all that. You have to be careful if you wouldn't have a language barrier. And I'm saying this even as a tech person. There is a consulting company that I worked for, a very, very large consulting company that I worked for in Nigeria before I left. Even though when I got to Portugal, I was going to work for them, they had my CV more than 4 times. And it was time to kind of evaluate. And they said, see, your CV is very, very impressive. We love it. We would love to have you. But the problem is, we have our clients are traditional Portuguese people, even though we speak English in our offices, right? Because of course that company is all over the world, so they have to communicate with people not only in Portugal but definitely outside of Portugal. So, however, the people that they service are Portuguese, the Portuguese market. And the problem is, you will not, your job as a consultant will be to interact with these people. And there is no way, with zero knowledge of Portuguese, that you'll be able to execute this adequately or to our satisfaction if you don't get down on the language with our customers, because that's a very big barrier. So even for a career in tech, which has almost like zero barrier to enter, to come into, to break into, if that exists in that space, I can imagine what would happen in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil engineering, structural engineering. I mean, virtually everything of those things are in of those professions are in Portuguese. So you definitely need to master the language. So, of course, if you can get to a certain level of understanding of Portuguese language, you should definitely go for it. You should have a chance.
Yes, absolutely. And I know use, when I was in the University of Porto, and my faculty, my nutrition faculty was close to the engineering faculty. And I know that they were teaching in English for their masters. I was not quite sure about the undergraduate, but like you say, it's very important to check whether, the language of instruction is English or Portuguese, or, in terms of the, certification, whether you would be able to work
Yeah.
in Portugal or even outside Portugal, whether the engineering course is relevant
Yeah.
elsewhere or is just relevant here in Portugal. So that's very, very, very important.
There's one last word I would want to say on the language, and this is to emphasize and stress how important the language, understanding the language can be. Even in the class where you have Portuguese and English people, sometimes, in fact, not sometimes, virtually all the times, when your lectures are done in English and all that, during the exams, you're allowed to actually write your exams in either English and Portuguese. So even for English taught courses, they they still allow a number of people who entirely speak Portuguese and can express themselves well or better in Portuguese language to actually take their exams. They would have the questions in English, obviously, but they can actually return the answers in Portuguese language. So if you can kind of phantom the gravity of the importance of the language, even in an English speaking course settings, then you can imagine how much more it will be for very, very professional courses like I mean engineering and all that. So yeah, that's the bit that I want to add on that.
Very, very true. So, one other question that I have gotten, of course, I think we have answered this. It was just about the cost of the studying. So, we answered this before. Another question was about can I bring my family to stay with me as I study? Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely. I came in 2017, and like any other person living here, I have a lot of family members have joined, and I mean eventually we all form a very large African slash Nigerian community here. So yeah, you can bring them while when you're coming, but I mean it's a lot more easier that way. However, if you want to kind of, but then you should understand the dynamics as well. When you're coming to study, especially if you're self-sponsored, you have the obligation to show that you will be able to take care of yourself. If you have additional family members that are following you, you have to also make sure that you put them into consideration regarding your costs, especially living costs, feeding and every other thing, together with your studying. However, what most people do is they come here maybe 6 months, 1 year, they settle down, they get a place, make themselves comfortable, and then prepare for the arrival of their family. So that way, things are a lot more smooth. Yeah,
Yes, very true. And when you bring your family here, you can definitely maybe start, helping them to look for a job as soon as they are documented.
yeah,
The thing is, I know for a fact is that if you have your family and maybe it's your spouse and they have stayed here for at least 2 years, then they are liable to also even maybe do a
yeah,
course, a master's course or whatever it is.
yeah,
And the beauty of it as well, if you get a child here in Portugal, then they become Portuguese almost immediately. So that is a good thing, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so that's a plus. That's an added plus. The other question was, of course, about the job and whether your spouse can be able to get it. And then I think the other last one is gonna be the cost of living. I think we talked about the cost of living, right?
Yeah.
Um, and can you talk about business courses in Portugal? I think I
Well, you mentioned the MBA, the business schools. There are some traditional masters in business, and most of these universities offer them. Because it's business related, most of them are usually in English or a mix of English and Portuguese. So I think you should get a higher chance of getting admission in those universities.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess that is what we will talk about. And over here we have more information about bachelors in psychology. So more information about bachelors in psychology. I think we mentioned that bachelors coming to study your bachelors here, if you're not coming from a Portuguese speaking country, if you're not coming from Mozambique, Angola, and all these Lusophone countries, then it might be a bit difficult. However, it's not that it's impossible, because I mean, if you can find a university that is teaching that in English, then yes. And one of the universities that I can maybe say would be the University of Porto, because the University of Porto is quite diverse in terms of the courses that they teach. And of course, psychology being one of the sciences that can, fall very closely with medicine and that kind of thing. The University of Porto, I know for a fact, has some very good courses. And maybe you can check and see whether that is possible for you. I don't know, Sadiq, whether you know a psychology department that's good also.
Actually, I would not. I'm not actually commenting on the psychology aspects itself, but rather what you can do to qualify for any university that offers psychology course, and obviously any other course. And the thing is, Portugal has this Center for Development of the Portuguese Language in a number of countries. I'm not sure if it's in Nigeria, but I think you should check. They have like centers the way we have British Council in every country where they are interested in developing the English language in those countries. We also have that center in several other countries. I'm sure they have in the UK, they have in Cape Verde, in all these Portuguese speaking countries, they have them right there in Africa. So, and of course, they have in some other countries like Morocco, I guess. So check with their websites if they have. I think it's Kuroish Center or something. I've forgotten the name. So just Google search Center for Development of the Portuguese Language and see if your country is there. With that, you can easily get access to training. I mean, definitely tailored training of the Portuguese language by professionals. You have access to the materials and things like that. You can take the exams. And yeah, you should be able to, once you get to a certain level, especially if you are targeting the bachelor's, there has to be a lot more preparation for that due to the language discrepancy. So please have it in mind that it might be in Portuguese, and that's what those things I mentioned are good ways to kind of prepare for that.
Yeah, that's very true. So, like, we have the Center of Portuguese Language in Kenya. It's in the University of Nairobi, and it's quite, growing by the day. And if this is something that you can be able to do, if, for example, you're in the University of Nairobi, you can request for the Portuguese course to be added into your own, transcripts, or maybe perhaps they can show somehow that you have been doing this course, and maybe if you complete it, then you can, stand at a stake of maybe applying for another bachelor's, or maybe, a master's in this case. So this is something that you can definitely do within your own country. And I know, like, most of the embassies are very keen on making sure that the Portuguese language is known right, left, center. So whether this is in Brazil, Brazil already speaks Portuguese, but they speak Brazilian Portuguese, which is maybe not recognized as Portuguese, but like all these places, wherever you go, there will definitely be a center for Portuguese language, and you can ask the information even from a Portuguese embassy. And nowadays, even on social media, pretty much the information is out there. So it's for you to find it and be able to utilize it the best way you can benefit from it. So I guess we will leave it at that for now, because I know there's so much that we can say. Of course, it depends, on an individual and exactly what you're trying to achieve, whether you're trying to do a master's, whether you're trying to come for a scholarship, or maybe do self-funding. There are all these things. So I always speak about Erasmus. Shoot your shot with Erasmus. You have nothing to lose, honestly. You have nothing to lose when you apply for any opportunity. So I don't know what final words, Sadiq, you would have for someone who's listening into this live session and wants to come and study or work in Portugal, or maybe even visit. Why not? Like, come and do some Europe tour and include Portugal into
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be your parting shot for someone who is looking to do that.
Yeah. Primarily, I would say I would pick that last word from my own experience. In 2016, I actually got the opportunity to come to Portugal, the same school, the same course, but I mean, due to some issues about finances and all that, I couldn't make it through at that year. And then I kept it in mind, kept the hope alive, kept the dreams alive to make sure that I still go for this very course that I want to do. And my point there is, if you know what you want to achieve, and you know everything that you should go through to take you there, just have it in mind. Don't. Sometimes you might have of course some unexpected events or even expected events that kind of drift you away from the goal. Make sure, especially if you know that this is important to you, make sure you stay true to your goal, and that will be your drive. When I missed out in the admission in 2016, I put it in my diary, and the very first day, I mean, my number in the school is 02. And for the first 1 week, I was looking for the person that was 01 because I knew that I had to apply, be the first person to apply. I set a calendar, I sent a reminder. I got a reminder from the school at the same time I was getting a reminder from my calendar from a year ago. So that was some determination there. Like this is the identified way for me, and it has to be. So I would encourage people, especially if you miss out on due to anything. We probably don't speak too much about the visa process for each country. I hope it's a lot more better in Kenya than in Nigeria. But I can tell you that visa application, especially for students, can be some pain, especially regarding the certification of your transcripts and all that. I know what I went through. The bottom line is, and the summary is, you will go through some things. Like you go through a number of things. You probably are working, and then you want to do all these processes. You don't have the time. You probably don't have the money to send people to do it on your behalf. There will be challenges. What I tell people is stay true to your dreams, stay true to what you believe you want to achieve. And in the end, what is important is the end goal, like what you really want to achieve. I mean, for me today, I can tell you that my trajectory over the last 4.5 years has very well been shaped because I stepped into Portugal in the October of 2017. So yeah, and the last one will be one of the hashtags that I used, which is can't skip Portugal. If there is anywhere you want to visit in your life, make sure that place is Portugal. There's a lot of lovely places. Actually, during my second year, there was this guy that came from Denmark, and the hostel that I was living, the guy just told me that you're so lucky. I said, why? You come to this country to study in this very beautiful country, beautiful, because the guy went on a tour on the first day and then came the second day. I was really amazed, like, wow, this is lovely. Very good weather, very good places to see, a number of things to explore in the city. So yeah, can't skip Portugal. If there's anywhere you want to go in this life and it's just one option, make sure it's Portugal.
Wow, that's a good place to leave it at. Hashtag can't skip Portugal. Never skip Portugal. Please don't. You will not be disappointed for sure. So I guess this is a very good place to leave it at. And I would like to thank you personally for taking the time to hang out with us on this channel, and just speak to us about studying in Portugal, guys. If you are listening to this now, later, or maybe in the next year or wherever it is, please follow Sadiq on Twitter, or myself on Twitter as well, or any other social media handle that you would like. I'm Duta Wambura on all of those. Sadiq is maybe more active on Twitter because, Twitter is where it's at. But I guess, guys, if you have gotten some value from this, please share it with someone, or maybe action on it. So that's the reason why we do all these live videos. That's why I talk about Erasmus every other single day. That's why I talk about living abroad and life abroad and all these programs so that you can be able to benefit from this information. I personally always say I wish I had a platform like this one before to listen to just get to know what to expect when coming to Portugal. Because when I was personally coming here, I really didn't know a thing about this country, and I could not find any information, relevant information rather, on online, on YouTube or wherever it is, just to get me at ease of coming in a country where I don't speak the language, I don't know anything about it. So I was lost at some point, and then I got myself found, and I am here, and I love to give this information because I know for a fact someone else might need it in the future. It might not be now, but maybe later. So I do hope that you have gotten some value from this session. And, once again, please subscribe into this channel because we do have some great conversations. You can even binge on those conversations because I guess I've had a chance of talking to some very nice people in the recent past and even in the future. So please go ahead and subscribe, and wherever you are, I would like to wish you a good afternoon, good evening, maybe good morning. I don't know. Whenever you're watching this, have a good one, and please reach out to us whenever you have any other questions. So bye-bye for now.